Well, hello there and welcome to Our Ventura. I'm MB Hanrahan, and today my guest and friend and fabulous artist is Chris Provenzano.
Thanks, MB. It's nice to be here.
So Chris, we were talking a little bit before the show, but why don't you briefly tell me how it was that you ended up at Art City here in Ventura and stone sculpting?
Okay, I took a sculpting class in San Fernando Valley, went back to college to get my degree, and I needed stone. So they said, go to Art City or go to Santa Barbara, and there are a couple of places that sell stone. And I discovered Paul Lindhard and Joanne Doobie and stone, and I fell in love. It was like being a heroin addict, sort of. I was immediately seduced by all the wonderful stone. I mean, they get it from all over the world.
And this was how many years ago?
This was about 18 years ago.
Wow.
I think, a long time ago. And I went there and I needed some instruction. I was an artist. I was a painter, actually, and I knew how to draw, but I needed to how to facilitate using stone. So Joanne Doobie gave me some classes and set me on my way.
And now you would consider yourself a professional. I mean, you exhibit in Ojai. And
I do. I have a gallery in Ojai, and I recently showed my Trabajadores, which means workers in Spanish. And they're sculpted out of limestone from Kansas. Kansas has a lot of agricultural property, and these people are about agriculture. And Kansas didn't have trees or forests, but they had a lot of limestone. And I thought, that's perfect for workers out in the fields. So I selected the limestone, which has beautiful fossils in it, and I sculpted heads of real workers up on Taylor Ranch in good old Ventura, and then I mounted them on the stone. And they're my effort to deify these hard laborers out there in those fields, just trying to make some money to support their family and not live in a cardboard box in Baja California.
I'm going to flip this beautiful picture here so people maybe get a visual. And this was set up at our Ventura County Agricultural Museum, if I'm not mistaken, in Santa Paula.
That's right.
Did you create these for the show? And just to backtrack a little bit, the word trabajadores.
Trabajadores.
The workers, was this something you came up with to do in reference to art about agriculture, or was it something you were already into? Because one of the main reasons why I brought you on today is not only do you produce incredible sculpture that's quite beautiful and ready for the home, or wherever, or an exterior as well, but in particular these sculptures kind of have a message. So go ahead. You started talking about that, and now I wanted to just sort of backtrack, contextualize, and now go right ahead.
I think artists, our job is to tell stories. That's my opinion. And our tools are our medium. Mine is stone and bronze. Authors tell stories. Musicians tell stories with notes. And so for me, my job is to tell stories, and I like issues. I like political issues. I started out by doing a 9/11 piece, and then I did a piece on the otter, because the otters are not doing well. Then I did a colony collapse disorder piece in Ojai. They had a called artist, and it had to be something pertinent to Ojai, and they have a lot of bees there, and they have oranges, so I did an 11-foot tall honeybee and orange sculpture for this business park on Bryant Street in Ojai.
Is it still there?
It's still there.
Oh my goodness.
It's public art.
So maybe explain real quickly I know what it's all about, but hive collapse. Why should people be worried? And in looking at your beautiful sculpture, what maybe do you want them to, not want them to think, but what could they think when they look at it besides, oh, it's beautiful, it's a giant bee?
Well, I think that the honeybee is an amazing creature. Not many of us get to see one close up because we're worried about getting stung.
So hence the scale.
Right, the scale, I mean, it's this tall. It's big, and it has all its little fur, and also I enjoy learning about these creatures, and I'm worried about the success of the honeybee. They say we're next to go after the honeybee, but they're having a very hard time surviving. We've lost about 25% of our honeybees, and I think from what I've read, a lot of it has to do with this new ingredient, neonicotinoid. It's a nicotine base spray that they use, and it's messing with their brain.
They get disoriented.
They can't find their way back to the hive, and also it's destroying their immune system. So once their natural immune system is attacked, they can't fight off viral and bacterial infections, and they get funny wings and they die. And so it's a big problem. So there again, I wanted people to be able to see the honeybee and think about, gee, this is an amazing creature, what it does for us. We take these things for granted, just like we take the food we put on our table. These workers work very hard. Just like we take for granted seeing the otter out there in the ocean floating around with its abalone shell, you know. It's nice to see them up close, and maybe people will think about that.
So paint a picture for us. I know a picture is worth 1,000 words, and we certainly, the viewers will be able to see these images, but the characters, these workers, they're life-size?
Life-size, yes.
And so the heads are life-size, and describe the process a little bit.
Okay, I went up to them. My Spanish is not real good, but one man, Inocencio. I drove up to Taylor Ranch in my Escalade, and here's this guy in a water truck, and he's about this tall, and I spoke to him in my Spanish, and I said I want what I'm doing, and okay, and he agreed to let me sculpt him. So I did that.
With him sitting there, or did you do it from photos?
I took photos. I paid him some money.
Oh, wow.
I asked his permission, asked his daughter the permission, and I took photographs, and when I sculpted him, I put a bottle of cerveza, I played ranchero music, and I knew he'd be very happy about that. And then they were cast in bronze and tailored to fit into this hole I would cut out in the limestone, neck size. And I tried to make them look proud, and kind of like this one lady I did, I wanted her to have sort of a smirk on her face, like, go ahead and laugh at me out there in the fields, but I've got money to put food on the table for my family.
Did you find her at the ranch as well, or?
My foundry found her for me.
All right.
So it was I feel like they're my friends, and I respect what they do. I don't want to do it.
It's rare for average people, or even what some people would even consider average people, in that they almost are invisible. That's what I mean. Not that, as a judgment call, but they just don't see them as invisible people that are actually supporting, for most of us being able to just run into this grocery store and run on out, that to memorialize an average person is, that's a huge statement in itself.
Yeah. Let me tell you about what I'm working on next.
Please.
Well, I have two pieces, actually. I have one piece called Fracked.
Okay.
Can you guess what that's about?
About fracking.
Yes. Well, I'm doing this gal on the planet Earth with the continents and the...
Is it big?
Well, the whole piece it's roughed out right now. It's about this big. I'm doing it in clay.
In clay.
And so there's this round ball.
So it'll be cast in bronze.
It'll be cast in bronze. There's this round ball with the continents showing that there's fractures, doesn't look right. And then there's this gal, this big gal, sitting on top with her knee up and her hand on her chin and the gas nozzle going into the planet Earth. And then I'm working on another piece out of, this is stone though. I like combining old and new, like the classical Greek sculpture draped. I want to do that with sandblasted, like tattoos, verbiage about women's rights, about what's happening to women and what has happened. We're coming out of the dark age in the 21st century. What's happening in the Middle East, incorporating some of those stories with issues that are in our country, voting, and kind of look at issues all over the world.
Like women not being able to drive by themselves in some countries.
I know. So that's what I'm working on right now.
When you show your work, and I know how it is as an artist, that we're not always around to get the feedback of people looking at our work.
Yeah.
So do you ever get any feedback? Is there any way where people have sought you out and said, or start to dialogue with you, or is it just something that you hope for?
People are real entertained by the Trabajadores because, probably because I'm so excited about them and about the message.
Why is it a coyote?
The coyote is the one who, the people that want to come over here, he offers to bring them to America. He puts them in their trunk, in his trunk, and sometimes they get out, they make it here, sometimes they don't, but they pay him money. So it was particularly important to me to make him have a little poochy stomach, a big star on his belt, and some big nasty cowboy boots on his feet. And people are interested in the fossils in the stone. You know, you see these rocks, stones we call them at the studio, laying out in fields, and they don't look like much. But once you do something to them, I mean, they're amazing. The stones at Art City, we have beautiful greens and blues that look like you're looking in the ocean. And these have clamshells this big, and it's sort of like working with my ancestors. You know, it's like a couple million years old. I get to have them as friends, and I get to discover. It's like a big Easter egg hunt.
Well, the mediums of bronze and stone both have been around for a long time, and like you say, they have the vestiges of classical sculpture. And
That's right.
When you're talking, and I'm thinking about these issues, some of them, they're old issues. They're very
Isn't
old.
that
So,
the
so then
truth?
the medium is almost speaking of just the persistence of some of these nagging problems. You know, like, for instance, not being guardians of all creatures, just, you know, that one dominant creature to the, you know, pain of another one is ultimately going to come back at the dominant culture, right?
Yeah, well, like, think about ancient times. What did they make? As we were talking earlier, they made fertility goddesses.
Yep.
They needed a clan, they needed people. So I sort of feel like I'm going back in that time and sort of mimicking what they did, but telling a story, sharing some ideas with my fellow man.
And also, the ancients made art to bring about change. They would actually make effigies and ritual type items, not all, of course, but to sort of move the energy along in the you know, in their universe. So maybe
That's true. That's very true.
And so, how do people get in touch with you? Because
Well,
I am sure that they're going to want to see not only this
thanks.
message art, or but they'll just want to see all your beautiful things.
Well, I do show my work in Ojai at a gallery, and I also will be having a show at downtown Ventura, and I have a website,
Oh, please.
www.chrisprovenzano.com, and I have most of my work on there, and I get a lot of inquiries about what are you up to, and it's good feedback.
What happened to the Trabajadores after being shown in Santa Paula?
Well, they went to a gallery, and then some wonderful person who is a serious art collector purchased them, and they're now living in Boca Raton, Florida.
Can the public still see them, or now they're in
Well,
a
they're gone,
collection?
but right now I am working on the Coyote and Inocencio, and I actually are in my car right now.
Okay, that's
Just picked
great.
them up at the foundry.
Yay.
And yeah, and so I will be making them. I can, you know, it's a limited edition.
Right.
It's a fine art series of 10, so I will be making more, and possibly I will be adding to them. And it was very important to have a woman. I'd like to have another woman in there, and a couple more men.
What about making a kid?
Well, you know, that's actually really pertinent, as a matter of fact. I never did think of that,
Gosh,
Andy. Thanks
yeah.
Thank you for that. That's a very good idea. So who knows? Who knows where we'll go from there? But I have a wonderful time working with stone. I feel so fortunate to have the tools, and I think the longer you work in a medium, the more you know what you can do to it, what your possibilities are. I feel very fortunate about that.
And we are fortunate to have you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to draw this to a close. Thanks again,
Thanks,
Chris.
Andy. My pleasure.
And this has been Our Ventura. I'm MB Hanrahan, and we'll see you again.